About 10 days ago, my whole world got flipped upside down. I found out something about my wife that I never saw coming, something that made my stomach turn and shattered every bit of trust one had in her. We have been married 6 years now, and up until recently, I thought we had a solid foundation. 2 beautiful little girls. A peaceful home. Good jobs. I thought we were one of those couples other people looked at and said, yeah, they've got it figured out. Turns out, I was dead wrong. This whole mess started with a video. Not just any video, a hidden cell phone clip that captured my wife at a bachelorette party doing things I never could have imagined she was capable of. 2 male dancers were there. And my wife? She didn't just flirt or dance a little. She went all the way with both of them. Right there, backstage, in the dressing room. And someone caught it all on camera. The footage had been buried for years, saved secretly by one of the other women at the party. She filmed it to prove to her boyfriend she wasn't doing anything wrong. Ironically, he and I went to the same high school, not buddies, but we knew the same people. He never showed me the video back then, probably because he knew I used to have a reputation for being hot-headed. I grew up in a rough neighborhood, and I earned my name in the streets the hard way. A few fights, a couple short stints in prison. But I turned things around when I met my wife and became a father. Been clean for over 8 years now. Got a steady job as a union electrician. I take care of my own. Anyway, this guy kept the video hidden for years. But once he broke up with his girlfriend, he started showing it around to his buddies like it was some kind of joke. Just a dirty party memory for laughs. Turns out, several women in that video were already in relationships at the time, including my wife. No one told me until about a month ago. One of my close friends ran into that guy at a bar. The topic somehow turned to this wild bachelorette party in the infamous video, and the guy started bragging about what was on it. My buddy recognized my wife in the story and felt sick to his stomach. He sat on it for a couple weeks, trying to figure out how to tell me. Then, one Friday, he called and said we needed to talk. I met him the next day. I remember walking into the bar and seeing him already there, hunched over his drink, looking like he hadn't slept. I could tell whatever he had to say wasn't good. I've known this guy since high school, used to watch his back when bullies came around. We don't hang in the same circles these days, but there's a bond between us. The look on his face told me he hated being the one to deliver the news. He said it straight. Matt, there's a video. From 5 years ago. It's your wife. With 2 dancers. In a dressing room. My mind went blank. For a moment, I thought maybe it was a mistake or some kind of sick joke. But deep down, I knew it was real. I remembered that bachelorette party. We had only been dating about 7 months back then, exclusive, but not living together yet. She told me it was just a harmless girls' night out. I trusted her. Hell, I loved her. She came from a tight-knit Irish Catholic family. Beautiful, sharp, funny. I thought I'd struck gold. Sure, she liked to party back then. She drank a little too much sometimes. But once we had our first daughter, she mellowed out. Or so I thought. As I sat there at the bar, trying to process what I had just heard, I asked my buddy if he had the video. He said he had only seen part of it, that it was on that other guy's phone. I figured he probably watched the whole thing, but I didn't call him out. He wouldn't have brought it up if it wasn't true. He knew my history, and I could tell this was eating him up inside. I asked for the guy's number. My buddy stepped outside to make a call. Said the guy wasn't answering, but he texted back. He promised to keep me updated. I wanted to leave right then and call my wife. But my friend advised me to take a breath, sleep on it, and think before doing anything stupid. So we talked more. I told him about how happy I'd been with her, how she'd changed since becoming a mom. I also admitted that back in the early days, she could be a little reckless, especially with alcohol. But I thought that part of her was long gone. I guess I was wrong. While we were still sitting there, my friend got another message, said the guy was willing to give me the video on a flash drive. Problem was, he was out of town and would not be back for another week. I asked how much he wanted to delete it permanently. He said $1,500. Of course, that was exactly the kind of guy he was, sleazy and opportunistic. We settled on $1,000. In a way, I was glad there was money involved. It meant we could draft a legal document and make it official. He would have to delete every copy and never share it again. I needed that guarantee, not just for my wife. Though at that point, I was not sure what I even felt for her, but for my daughters. I would do anything to protect them from this nightmare. By the end of the night, I was too drunk to drive. I called a ride home and left my car at the bar. I remember stumbling through the door, barely able to walk. I called my wife at 4 in the morning, but I must have passed out before I could say a word. What I was about to face, I wasn't ready. But the storm was coming either way. I woke up the next morning sprawled out on the couch, blanket half falling off me, mouth dry as the desert. My head was pounding from the whiskey and sleepless night, but what really weighed me down was the memory of what I'd learned. My wife, Abigail, had called off work that day, said she was worried about me and wanted to know what was going on. She handed me a glass of water, sat down beside me, and asked what had me so out of sorts. As I looked at her, this woman I'd shared a life with, raised 2 daughters with, all I could see were those flashes from the video my buddy told me about. Her, in a dressing room, with 2 male strippers, doing things I never thought she was even capable of. My throat clenched, and I couldn't speak. Instead, I just broke down. I cried harder than I had in years. Couldn't even control it. She started crying too, asking me over and over what was going on, trying to hug me, but I pushed her away. Eventually, I managed to get it out. There's a video, Abby, of you, from that bachelorette party 5 years ago, with 2 guys. At first, she looked confused, like I was making it up. Then came the denial. She swore it wasn't true, that it had to be fake. I reminded her which party it was, the one for her college friend, Melanie. Her face changed. She admitted she was there, but doubled down on the lie that she hadn't done anything wrong. I asked her if she could have been too drunk to remember. She shot back, I would definitely remember something like that. She asked to see the video, but I told her the guy with the footage was out of town until Tuesday. It was Sunday then, and every hour felt like a week. I needed to know the truth, but part of me still wanted to believe her. Still, something about her behavior wasn't right. She started acting overly sweet, doing little things around the house she usually wouldn't, checking on me constantly, like I was the crazy one, trying to twist it all around, like I'd made this story up. By Monday, I couldn't take it anymore. I texted the guy and told him we didn't have to meet in person. I'd send him the $1,000 digitally, and he could send me the file. He said his online storage was full and he couldn't upload it. I told him to just make a new account, and he did. That evening, I sent him the money. He messaged me back with the Dropbox link. I clicked it, and my heart just stopped. At first, it was nothing more than some women cheering on the strippers. But then, I saw her, my wife, touching them, laughing, clearly not just watching. Then the scene cut to a small backstage room. That's when it hit hard. There she was, on her knees, next to 2 other women, performing acts I never thought I'd see her do, especially not in public, and definitely not with strangers. Then, the worst part. She was still partially dressed, engaging in full-on acts with both men at once. And she was enjoying it. You could hear it in her voice. You could see it in her face. There was no confusion, no mistaking her for someone else. Her voice, her little mannerisms, the way she laughed, it was her. 100%. The dancers knew they were being filmed. They did not care. As for my wife and the other women, they never looked at the camera, so I still don't know if they even knew it was recording. But she was no victim. She was leading the charge. It felt like someone took a hammer to everything I believed in. I had waited 2 months after we started dating before we got intimate. And here she was, giving herself freely to strangers in one night. All those special, private moments we shared, gone, shattered. I kept thinking, was I not good enough for her back then? Am I still not enough now? I am not the same shape I was at 25, sure, but back then I was fit. I thought I was a decent-looking guy. Still do. But none of that mattered. She did this willingly, and she lied to my face about it. I had to get it off my chest, so I'm putting this here. Maybe someone else out there has been through this kind of betrayal, because I feel completely alone. Before I saw that video, Abigail seemed like the perfect wife. Great mom. Took care of the house. Supportive. Traditional. At least now she is. But clearly, that wasn't always the case. And here's the kicker. They used protection. That stood out because I remembered how serious she was about it the first time we slept together. That made me respect her more. But now, it just makes it all feel like a performance. Monday night, she came home. I had the video ready, loaded up on the television. When she walked in, I hit play. I expected shock, remorse, tears, begging. But what I got was excuses. She started saying we weren't officially together at the time, that we were just friends with benefits, and she did not owe me anything. I called her out because she was lying. Even if we hadn't made it official, how in the world is that okay? She changed the story again, said she was drunk, said they took advantage of her. I pointed at the screen. Does that look like someone being taken advantage of? You were enjoying it. You were leading it. Then came another lie. The video was edited. It doesn't show everything. I was stunned. She just kept piling on the excuses, acting like I should feel guilty for holding it against her. That she forgave me for my past, for my arrests, for the time I served. So why couldn't I forgive her? I told her I needed space. I packed a bag and left. Stayed with a friend from work. I could not trust myself to stay calm around her anymore. The next few days were a blur. She called nonstop. Texted, trying to flip it around, saying I was judging her for her past while she accepted mine. She talked about how she forgave me for my aggravated assault charges, my time in prison, my probation. But none of that compared to the betrayal I felt. Yeah, I had a record. But I never lied to her. I never acted like someone I wasn't. The marriage started to feel like a joke. And suddenly, I started wondering who this woman really was. When I asked how many men she'd been with before me, she said 5. That number sure looked off now. Between the boyfriends, flings, and now this tape, how could I believe anything she told me? I still loved her. I wanted to believe in what we had. But now I was second-guessing every conversation, every story she had told me. I had no plan. Divorce hadn't crossed my mind yet. I was too deep in the shock. But I needed advice. So I did something I hadn't done in a while. I called my dad. He listened, then said something that stuck with me. He told me, back in my day, it was different. Women didn't have social media. Didn't have men messaging them from every direction. These days, attention comes cheap. I told him I was struggling badly. And he gave it to me straight. You've got kids. Be there for them. Listen to her if you think there's a chance to fix this. But be real with yourself. Don't let pride ruin you. And if you can't forgive her, make a plan and move forward. I decided to go back to the house, mainly for my daughters. I had to take them to school anyway. When I got there, Abby wanted to talk. I told her we would talk that night. She looked like she had been crying for hours. Honestly, I did not feel bad for her. Not yet. She had not owned up to anything. That night, she was out on the balcony. That used to be our favorite spot in the summer. I walked past her without a word, took a shower, and came back out with a beer. Sat down beside her in silence. Eventually, she started talking. She apologized. Said it happened during a different phase in her life. Said she never thought our relationship would last when we first started out. Said she was still partying back then. I just sat there, waiting to see what she would say next. She sat across from me that night, trying to explain. Said the things she'd done back then were mistakes, things she regretted now. Claimed she'd been loyal ever since. I interrupted her right there. How is it? I asked. You hooked up with those 2 guys the night you met him, but I had to wait months for us to even get close. She said our first time meant something, that she wanted it to be special. That what happened that night with the dancers was just meaningless, a drunk mistake. But to me, that sounded like a cheap excuse. I told her straight. It felt like she gave herself away without thought back then, but made me feel like I had to earn it. Like intimacy with her was some prize I had to work for, while those guys, they got it right away, in front of her friends, no less. I asked if there were any other moments like that. Anything else she had done that was never caught on camera. She said no. Swore she had been honest. Told me to go ahead, check her phone, her messages, whatever I wanted. I did not think I would find anything, not after she had time to scrub everything clean. But I took her up on it anyway. She gave me her passwords. And though I knew she was trying to look like she had nothing to hide, my gut told me she was not being fully honest. Not even close. Still, I remembered what my old man told me. Do your best to work through it if you think there's something left to save. So that night, I had her sleep in the guest room. I needed space. I was not ready to forgive or forget. Next day at work, I could not focus. That nagging feeling kept creeping in. I told myself to let it go, not to check her social media. But eventually, I gave in. Started going through her messages. And yeah, nothing outright graphic, but there were dozens of guys messaging her. Most of them from overseas. Middle Eastern and South Asian names filled her inbox. She was deleting stuff before I could see it, probably hoping I would not notice. I set up notifications. Watched things disappear before I could read them. She acted like she was being loyal. But why delete anything if there was nothing to hide? A week went by. Things were cold between us. We were talking, sure, but not connecting. No physical closeness. Nothing. She kept trying, but I could tell she was getting tired of the wall I kept up. She finally suggested counseling. I was hesitant. Thought it would be a waste. Thought maybe I would get blamed. But I agreed. The therapist, to my surprise, was fair, direct, held her accountable without being cruel. My wife was uncomfortable. I can see it in her face. This process was starting to reveal parts of her even she did not want to face. In those sessions, more came out. And the more she talked, the more I wondered how much was still being left out. By the third visit, she started resisting, made excuses to cancel sessions. Once, she even tried switching therapists. But I refused. If we were going to do this, we were going to do it the right way. About 6 weeks after I found out everything, I circled back to the buddy who'd told me in the first place. I asked him how many people had known about the video before I did. He sighed and said, "A lot, man. More than you think." Said even some of the guys from our high school group had seen it. That explained a lot. All those looks I had gotten around town. That night at the bar when a few folks looked at me, then laughed like they were in on something that was not paranoia. They really had been watching me live in ignorance. It was humiliating. That night, I confronted my wife about it. Told her how embarrassed I felt. How half the town had seen that damn video before I ever knew it existed. I asked her if she had known, if maybe she heard rumors and just kept quiet. She said she didn't. But then she offered to move. Said she'd leave her job, pack up, start over somewhere new. Sounded like she had been thinking about it before I even brought it up. That raised more red flags. Did she know the fallout was coming and just hope I would never catch on? I started trying to reach out to the women in that video. Some were no longer friends with her. Others still were. A couple had moved away. I messaged them on Facebook. No one replied. 3 months after what I called D-Day, I ended up giving in. She had been trying to seduce me, wearing things she had not worn in years, being extra sweet. One night, I let it happen. It was not love. It was frustration, loneliness, the need to feel something. The next night, she tried again. But I was not feeling it. She tried to cuddle. I just felt smothered. I ended up back on the couch. Told her I could not sleep next to her. Next morning, she told me she was tired of seeing me hurt over nothing. Said if I needed to sleep with someone else to get past this, she'd give me a year-long hall pass. I told her straight, that was not what I wanted. I was not looking to screw around. I wanted love, a connection, trust, and I did not feel like I could have that with her anymore. For months in, I called my dad again. Told him I did not think I could move past it, that I might need to separate legally. He suggested I take a couple months away. Said it might help clear my head. When I got home that night, I told Abigail I was looking for a short-term place. Still close enough to see the kids, but far enough that I could breathe. She begged me not to go, but I had made up my mind. A week later, I signed a month-to-month lease at a furnished studio. Small place. Clean. Quiet. I still had my tools and gear at the house, and I made sure to keep my key. The night before I moved in, we had a big argument. She said I was overreacting, that she had given me all the space I needed. Said I was abandoning them over something we weren't even officially together for. I reminded her, again, that we were exclusive, and I believed she was still hiding things. We agreed on 2 months. After I moved in, I felt relief. Sure, the first day was rough, especially when I found out she had told our 5-year-old that Daddy left us. That pissed me off. The next morning, when I took my little girl to kindergarten, she said, "Mommy cried last night. She said you left us." I squatted down, looked her in the eyes, and told her, "Sweetheart, I didn't leave you. I'm still here. I'll always be here." Later, I called Abigail and told her she had no right to say that. She denied doing anything wrong. Said in her eyes, I had left. But I was still there. Still doing drop-offs. Still being a father. That week passed quietly. We barely saw each other, but we talked, mostly about the kids. Sometimes she dropped off food. Sometimes she texted to check in. For the first time in months, there were no fights. No stress. No crying kids in the background. Just quiet. Part of me thought, maybe I'll move back. But part of me wasn't sure. A few buddies were planning a week-long hunting trip next month. Normally, I would skip stuff like that. Abigail always had reasons why I should stay home, and I usually gave in. But this time, I said yes. Trips in Arkansas. We are riding in an RV, splitting costs. I already got my ticket. It felt good to have something to look forward to. A couple weeks later, I dropped by the house again to fix a broken dishwasher. First time I had been inside the living room in a while. Place looked different. New curtains. New couch. Everything rearranged. I asked her, "What's with the changes?" She said, "Just felt like a fresh start." After I finished fixing the dishwasher, I went upstairs to grab some things. Walked into the master bedroom and saw a bunch of new clothes. Workout gear, mostly. I asked about it. She said she started going to the gym, trying to work on herself. I nodded, but deep down I wondered, was she moving on? Even though I knew the break was what I needed, a part of me could not help but feel like I was watching someone else step into the life I used to have. And I was not sure how to feel about that. When I went over to fix the dishwasher, I could tell right away something about her had changed. She looked thinner, more toned. It caught me off guard. I hadn't noticed before because she was always wearing those loose pajama sets around the house. She told me it was all part of her new routine, trying to improve herself. As we talked, it became clear she was not in a rush for me to move back home. Truth be told, she was kind of enjoying the setup. I was still paying my half of the mortgage, helping with the kids, and taking care of stuff around the house. Meanwhile, she got to live like she was single, none of the work, none of the intimacy, just the perks. I told her about my hunting trip coming up in Montana, half expecting her to shoot it down. Usually, she would find a reason why I should stay: too dangerous, too pricey, or not a good time. But this time, she said nothing. Just nodded. That was strange. Made me wonder if she had moved on already and just didn't care anymore. 2 weeks later, I went on that trip. When I got back and picked the girls up for school on Monday, they were excited to see me. But my 5-year-old asked something that stopped me in my tracks. Are we getting a new daddy? I crouched down, confused, and asked her what she meant. She mentioned someone named Michael staying at the house while I was gone. I figured maybe she meant my brother-in-law, or even Uncle Daniel. But no, she was sure it was Michael, a name I had never heard before. Since my wife had changed all her passwords after I moved out, I couldn't check her phone or social media. But now Michael was all I could think about. I had never heard her mention him. And the way she had been acting lately, distant, content with me just showing up to fix things, it all started to add up. That night, I drove to the house after the kids had gone to bed. I wanted to catch her off guard. But when I showed up, she didn't even look surprised. Probably guessed I'd stop by, considering I had just gotten back in town. I still had keys, so I let myself in. She asked if I was hungry. I told her no, I needed to talk. We sat down in the living room. I cut right to the chase and asked her who Michael was. Asked her why she was seeing someone else when we were supposedly working on things. She ran her fingers through her hair. That nervous habit told me everything. She looked up and said Michael was just a coworker who helped around the house while I was away. I stared at her. Did he help you in the bedroom, too? She froze. Then she said it. We slept together. Twice. I knew that was a lie. It had been going on longer. I pushed her harder, and that is when she finally admitted it had been an emotional thing for over a year, just turned physical recently. She tried to spin it, saying it only happened because I left. Tried to put it on me. I reminded her how she wanted to quit marriage counseling right when the therapist started digging deeper. How she never really opened up. I should have seen it then. This whole thing was built on shaky ground. I looked at her and asked, "Do you love him?" She stood up. Avoided the question. I told her to stop pretending. The woman who did what she did at that bachelorette party didn't just stumble into an affair. I told her I was glad she had found happiness because now I had no doubt legal separation was the right move. I mentioned the girls, said they were the only reason I held back. But it was over. I had finally seen who she really was. The therapist might not have said it out loud, but I could read the signs. She had been hiding things for a long time, skilled at covering her tracks. And now, she had finally exposed herself. As I stood to leave, she told me she still loved me. I didn't respond. I walked out. That night was tough. I knew I wouldn't see my kids every day anymore. But at least I felt clarity. Relief. Truth has a strange way of settling things, even when it hurts like hell. The next morning, I called my dad. Told him everything. He said I did what I had to do. Told me none of this was my fault. That sometimes things happen the way they do to bring the truth to the surface. But I had one big concern now, my daughters. I needed to know who this man Michael was, who had my wife brought into their lives. You hear stories about men who go after single moms for reasons that have nothing to do with love. The next day, I picked the kids up like usual. Then my wife called to talk. She said she wanted to make things right, that she would cut ties with Michael. I told her that was not the issue anymore. It was not about just cutting him off. She had brought him into our home while claiming we were fixing our marriage. That betrayal hit different. She tried to flip it again, saying I abandoned her and the kids, and that is when she turned to Michael. That was enough for me. I knew then and there, divorce was the only path. I had to think about my daughters now. I could not risk random men coming in and out of their lives. She is still a beautiful woman. She will find someone else. Probably already has. I just hope for my girl's sake he is not a complete stranger. That afternoon, I reached out to one of her coworkers who had been with her for years. I acted casual. Told her I was looking for a male physical therapist named Michael. She seemed confused and said she didn't know anyone by that name at the current job. But she did remember a Michael from a previous clinic. He had been one of my wife's clients. I hung up quickly. Realized my question had tipped her off. So I called my wife right after. Told her the truth. I knew Michael wasn't a coworker. He was a client. A long-term one. She confessed. He was a widower. Wealthy. Owned hotels. Said they had chemistry, but nothing had happened until I moved out. That was the line she kept using. I was done with her blame game. And I knew this had been going on longer than she said. I did some digging. Background check. Clean record. Businessman. No dirt I could find. But I will not lie, it stung a little, knowing she moved on to someone like that. But it was not about jealousy. It was about honesty. This whole mess taught me I never really knew who I married. 2 months later, the divorce was finalized. We sold the house and split the money. She moved in with Michael. One of his places was about 50 miles away, but he had others closer. I relocated to another city. Found a better job with more money. Rented a condo with enough space for my work gear. It took time to adjust, and lining up new contracts was tough. But I welcomed the fresh start. The hardest part? Not seeing my kids every day. But I got them every other week. We have joint custody, and that keeps me grounded. I have not started dating again. Right now, I do not want it. I am focused on rebuilding, on work, and on being a solid father. Life after divorce is not easy, but it is not the end of the road either.